brand us unworthy. These usurpers. For though you have been burned, it only takes a cinder for a phoenix to rise. Their walled citadels, so pretty to behold.
Swiftly! Hurry! Behind us!
This world, and everything that's in it, will burn. With these ashes, my son, we have our revenge.
No. I've only begun.
Hello and welcome everyone, Lanart here, and that was the Dark Elves in-engine cinematic trailer for Total War Warhammer 2. And today I thought I'd give you guys my thoughts and impressions of that trailer. We'll go back through it, pick out a few things that I've noticed. I've also been trawling the Total War Reddit, and I picked out a few bits of information from there as well. Also found a nice kind of summarized bit of lore from the Reddit about the Dark Elves, about Malekith and Morathi, his mother, who's the one narrating in the trailer. Images you're seeing up on screen are those from the Total War Access site, a couple of wallpapers featuring the Dark Elves. So yeah, I'm going to share my thoughts and impressions. As I said, I'm going to share a bit of the lore, kind of a summary about Malekith and again his mother Morathi, but I'm no lore expert, so feel free to add extra lore bits down in the comment section. Let me know which Dark Elf unit you're most looking forward to. Obviously there hasn't been a confirmation of them, although probably by the time this video goes live, maybe Creative Assembly will have released a unit roster. If not, I imagine that will be coming in the next few days. So I may well do another video once we know what units are confirmed. But we see a few in this trailer, and obviously you can see a few in the various wallpapers here. So let me know which is the unit you're most looking forward to. And let's jump on in and take a look at this trailer again. So as I said, Morathi is the one narrating this trailer. We actually heard her then just kind of whisper Malekith. So I think this kind of, they are mother and son, that relationship. I think she very much kind of whispers in his ear, suggesting and influencing some of his decisions. But he's very much the one at the head of the Dark Elves. They are both the legendary lords for the Dark Elves in Total War Warhammer. So it'll be interesting to see how their start positions vary. Obviously, we have no idea about that right now because we haven't seen any kind of true campaign map gameplay of the Dark Elves. Just these flyovers that we'll see in this video might give us some hints about it. But feel free to let me know your thoughts on where you think they might start differently, different locations. It'll be interesting to see what initial challenges both of them face in the campaign.
they would brand us unworthy. These usurpers.
Now that, as far as I understand from the lore and what I've had a look on Reddit, I do highly recommend you check it out, or check out Milk and Cookies, Indiepride. He's done a really good lore-focused analysis video. He always does. But that comes from the fact that Malekith tried to usurp the Phoenix throne, become the next Phoenix King thousands of years ago. I think when there weren't Dark Elves and High Elves, they were just kind of one elven, I guess, race together. But Malekith tried to become the next Phoenix King, which I believe involves walking through some holy fire, and he was branded unworthy and was horribly burned as a result. And Morathi, his mother, managed to save him along with some of his Dark Elf supporters, and he was put into this armor. I believe it's the Armor of Midnight, which basically helps keep him alive, because he's still, I think the lore says he's still on fire. He's still burning from this holy fire that sort of rejected him, and was basically the process he'd have to go through to become Phoenix King. He failed, so yeah, he's still burning within this armor. He is basically the Darth Vader of the Warhammer fantasy universe, and we'll see some more evidence for that later on. But yeah, very much kind of Darth Vader there. Some people have been sort of saying, is Morathi then the Emperor in this scenario, or not? But yeah, there's various takes on that. I think sort of slightly, but not as she truly loves her son, and I have been seeing some very interesting comments about how much she might love her son and how much he might love her. So yeah, feel free to comment on that down in the comment section. There's a really strong mother-son bond, apparently. But yeah, that's the usurper comment here. Apparently, as well, from what I've been reading, is that all those that tried to walk through the holy fire after Malekith to become Phoenix Kings have apparently warded themselves against the fire itself. So they're kind of sort of false Phoenix Kings in that they haven't been truly judged by the fire and passed. So Malekith was kind of the last to go in there without any kind of magical protection, but for whatever reason, he was unworthy, and he went off, was obviously restored by his mother with the Armor of Midnight, still burning, but he was able to get back into the fight, and you have this division then between the High Elves and the Dark Elves. Just looking at the shot itself, obviously you see a very impressive High Elf city. As much as I would love to take this as a suggestion, possibly, that we might have grander, bigger sieges, Creative Assembly have themselves said not to expect any radical changes to siege. It'll still be that kind of similar design, that one-wall approach. Maybe it might be a few more walls around the side, because we did see there were two-walled approaches in a couple of maps in Total War Warhammer 1. But I wouldn't expect anything radical. I'm kind of fingers crossed, hoping that maybe, though, that the focus within this trailer is very much on this siege of this High Elf city, and that potentially maybe sieges have been improved. They have talked about kind of making sieges deeper and more areas that you can fight in, so they're not as narrowed and closed in. So hopefully that's what we'll see. Now, I believe this is actually a view of the Dark Elf lands in Naggaroth, I believe it is. Basically, again, from the lore, from what I understand, when the Dark Elves kind of split off from the High Elves and they were fighting this civil war, they had to eventually leave their land because of an event called the Sundering. I think it started sinking lots of the lands of the High Elves and the Dark Elves, so they raised up their cities in black arcs, I believe, and floated them off to Naggaroth, where they then settled. And apparently, I believe as well, some people are suggesting that this is why the Dark Elves might have possibly the strongest navy in Warhammer 2, because of their prowess with these black arcs. So it'll be interesting to see how that affects them. But as you can see here, it looks very dark and ominous. I believe it was Indieprides saying that their walls of their cities are covered in the skins of flayed enemies or something like that. So they sound absolutely lovely, don't they?
For though you have been burned, it only takes a cinder for a phoenix to rise.
We'll go on to the next scene before I pause and talk. So that whole cinder to rise again, that's the whole link to him becoming the Phoenix King. That's kind of his quest. He sort of wants to become Phoenix King still. Well, wants to become king of all the elves through whatever means, basically. Or as at the end of the trailer it suggests, he'll just burn everything. If he can't have it, he'll burn the world, cover it in fire and flame, as potentially, make everybody else suffer as he suffers on a daily basis with that burning inside that armor still going on. So yes, only he takes a cinder for a phoenix to rise. So his mother kind of acting as the kingmaker behind her son there. We have I believe a black dragon here flying on in over the city. Now again, as much as I would love to think that maybe this is what we'll see sieges-wise in Warhammer 2, I'm gonna kind of lower my expectations and just expect to get exactly what we had in Warhammer 1. If there's more to that, if there's more depth to them, then I'll be a happy bunny. I mean, here it looks like there's very high walls at the front here. It does look like the buildings are further spaced apart than what we've seen in Warhammer 1 cities. So I'm hoping that maybe is just a reflection of how they'll differentiate sieges in Warhammer 2 to Warhammer 1. Maybe again to reflect the different races a bit more, kind of elven architecture and things like that. But if there is more spacing in the cities, I think it'll actually give you better kind of fighting room within those cities and make it a better fight inside the walls. So that'll be interesting to see how that works. So there's these magical bolts going in here as well. Not sure what spell could be causing that. Feel free to suggest down in the comment section.
Citadels.
And this is an awful time for me to pause. In fact, I'm just going to jump back a second. That's a far better shot. Okay, well, it's still pretty dark. But down here, where my mouse is floating around the fire in the bottom sort of center of the screen, that is a hydra, and we get to see one of these again at the end of the trailer, and a lot of people are very excited about seeing a hydra in there. It looks absolutely cool, awesome. Obviously it'll have melee attacks, it'll have a breath attack, got the black dragon flying above it as well. Hydra sounds absolutely awesome. Again, it'll be interesting to see what sort of mechanics they will have and what abilities. I imagine obviously some kind of replenishment, quite high replenishment buff, maybe probably activated when it's in combat or something like that, because obviously I doubt we'll see if you cut off a Hydra's head, another one will regenerate. I mean, that'd be absolutely awesome if they have put something in like that, but I doubt it. So I imagine the Hydra itself would just have a very high replenishment rate or something like that, or an ability that triggers. So yeah, that'll be interesting to see again. Yeah, black dragon flying above. And there's a lot of destruction being shown off here, again, which, I mean, obviously this is an in-engine cinematic, so it's sort of suggesting, there's potential capabilities of what you might see in-game here, but this is, for dramatic effect, for showcasing, for cinematic, get the hype, get the epicness feeling going, so kind of don't take much of this as what you'll see in-game, just probably the key characters and the architecture itself. But if we do see increased levels of destruction on buildings, and again, wider, bigger city streets to fight through, I think that'll be a great improvement to sieges. Won't fix them, but it'll be a step in the right direction of making them more challenging, more engaging, and more fun to play.
Pretty to behold.
So we have some high elves being strung up there, again linking very much to the fact that the dark elves are the complete opposite of their high elf, I guess, brethren originally. They are all about the flaying and torturing of their foes, compared to, I guess, the more just and upright holders of champions of justice, I guess, that the high elves sort of potentially, put themselves forward as. Dark elves will torture, maim, and flay their enemies, and it'll be interesting to see if we see any of these, kind of aspects within a siege, or potentially maybe outside of a dark elf city. You might see a couple of high elves strung up outside as a warning to enemies and things like that. Be very interesting to see. Just nice little bits like that. I wonder if there'll be any kind of maybe torture mechanics, or maybe that will be potentially, instead of like obedience or public order, maybe they'll have torture, which will repress their populations or something like that, as an edict buff or something. Be interesting to see.
Behind us!
This world and everything that's in it will burn.
So this is, of course, Malekith. Inside his armor, looks like he's got a mask on as well. And as I said, he is the Darth Vader of the Warhammer Fantasy world, it seems. Not just with the whole armor thing, helping to keep him alive. He's been horribly burnt. But for his next couple of actions, very much Rogue One-esque at the end, that end scene. Darth Vader going on a kill spree. So, not only is Malekith an insane swordsman and melee expert, he's also an incredibly powerful spellcaster, and obviously the hydra here, but also, you know, the destruction, and the fact in that previous sequence he froze with the force those two high elf warriors and then just slayed them where they stood. So I imagine he's going to be in multiplayer, insanely expensive. Apparently as well, he's got a lot of magical, mystical items that will add to that. Again, I'd highly recommend you check out Indieprides. In fact, I'll link Indieprides' video down in the description because he goes into far more detail about the specific items that Malekith will have because he knows more about the lore than I do. But on that suggestion, that might see Malekith being very expensive to field in multiplayer because of all these items he may well have. So it'll be interesting to see how many of those items will make it into the game, how many of them have quest battles attached to them. It'd be very interesting to see how that goes. I actually wonder if they were to do an Armor of Midnight quest battle, whether or not he'd have a slightly different model before obviously he goes into that armor, or whether they just wouldn't bother, whether he would just start with that armor. But it seems like such a important part of Malekith's character and kind of skill set, because apparently that armor itself has very high ward save, it's resistant to magic. I wonder if it maybe offers some kind of replenishment to sort of simulate the fact that it's helping keep him alive and cool him down, sort of trying to cool the fire that burns within his flesh still. So yeah, it'd be very interesting to see how Malekith is spec'd out and what sort of items he has access to and how those are reflected in quest battles. Again, that hydra, it's looking absolutely awesome. It's got melee attacks, it's got breath attack, and yeah, I can't wait to try that out in game. I'm still not sure which factions I'm going to do a let's play of. I know I get asked this every video. My plan will be to do a vote, and I will do 3 let's plays at launch of Total War Warhammer 2. Same as I did with Total War Warhammer 1, so there'll be 3 let's plays going on, and obviously then I'll cover the 4th faction at a later date. But there'll be a vote up, I would imagine, probably start of September for you guys to choose. Hopefully by then we'll have seen all the races that will be in the game and playable from launch. But I think I'm definitely leaning towards wanting to do a Malekith let's play, because he just seems like an absolute badass. I can't wait to see some actual gameplay of him as well, because the initial wallpapers we saw of Malekith features, and again, a couple of shots from the cinematic as well. His armor looks incredibly detailed and intricate, and I think the models themselves within Total Warhammer 2 have been given kind of the next step up in terms of graphical fidelity and detail. So it'll be very interested to see how that all comes out. And High Elves getting munched.
And with these ashes, my son, we have our revenge.
No. I've only begun.
Okay, so I wanted to pause here because I think, again, this is meant to represent one of the Dark Elf naval units. And again, because they've had that sort of that history of being able to float up their whole cities, the Black Arcs, I wonder what sort of terrifying naval prowess and power the Dark Elves will field in Warhammer 2. So I just want to jump back to this shot, because for Morathi, again, she should be the second legendary lord for the Dark Elves. It's going to be interesting to see what her abilities are. She is, apparently, again, coming back to the lore I found on Reddit, Malekith, before he, I guess, before he was burned and turned against the High Elves, before they had that split between High Elves and Dark Elves, he was actually tasked to root out the, I think it was the Cult of Pleasure, which I think was being influenced by Slanesh, and it turned out that actually it was his mother, Morathi, that was leading this cult. She's a master seductress, and she was sort of corrupting followers that way and manipulating force that way. Apparently, on the tabletop, she has an ability which I think those in her presence, I think it's both friend and foe, kind of lower their guard, their defenses are dropped because of her beauty. She's meant to be, I think, one of the most beautiful creatures, I guess, in all of the Warhammer Fantasy realms. So I think while she's going to be a very powerful spellcaster in her own right, there's going to be, I think, it'd be interesting to see what happens when she gets into melee if sort of enemy units around her to kind of just drop their guard and are then very much weakened, either for her to then finish off with what looks like a halberd polearm there, or for her own units to get in there. But it kind of in a sense, be interesting to see how that affects her own units as well. Are they sort of stunned by her beauty as well, or maybe some of them immune to it? It'd be very interesting to see how that affects them. But anyway, yes, that is where we're going to leave things for now. Those are my thoughts, my initial thoughts and impressions, and bits that I've gleaned from Reddit and from watching Indieprides video. So yeah, share your thoughts down in the comment section. Again, do check out Indieprides video for a far more detailed and lore-focused analysis. And yeah, let me know your thoughts. Are you hyped and interested in playing as the Dark Elves, Malekith, or Morathi? Who will you play as? Let me know down in the comment section below. But until the next one, I hope you've enjoyed. Don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Take pride and join the Legion. Check out my affiliates and sponsors, Greenman Gaming, Overclockers UK, and MSI. Till the next one.